Hello, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited to bring you our guest today. And it's such a privilege when you get to meet people who are especially out of your own country. So I have my beautiful guest, Juliette Stapleton. She's an online visibility strategist. She mentors coaches and experts using human design. You guys know how much I love that to realign their marketing with their authentic selves. She is an internationally recognized for her direct, non traditional marketing methods. She teaches how to show up comfortably online, build strong positioning as an authority in your niche, and attract perfectly aligned clients and opportunities. Juliette is also a seasoned podcast host, a passionate speaker, and a writer featured in Forbes, talking about staying visible, in uncertain times. She is an active contributor to Entrepreneur, Influenza, and multiple other major online publications. And she's an expert on Facebook profile marketing, human design, and online visibility. Welcome, Juliette.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And don't forget how to look 20 years younger on Zoom. I'm an expert on that as well.
Yeah, I think I might need some tips there. I just had a birthday recently, and turned 56. And so I'm like, oh no, I think I need to I need to bump it up a bit.
We can exploit the vanity to the full with this whole online technology. And yes, it makes us feel a little bit better, at least for the time when we're on. So yes, I think I've learned with my visibility journey the last 6 years how to do this. And but it's still, we're still facing ourselves every morning. This is all just keeping up appearances, like building the shiny cover, the authority, how you're perceived. And so all these things, of course, they are important in the first time seeing someone or first time hearing someone. And yes, I try and dig deeper into those little things as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. What is so interesting being on this journey with the podcast and my really part-time coaching part of the business that I do, but the joy is the podcast, the bliss, right? And I think about all of the beautiful, especially women that I've met who are launching out into being an entrepreneur, more spiritual based, and just kind of like the dread that they find in doing being visible. And then once you get going, like, you join a coaching program and you're like, you got to do this. And when I've done that, and it's exhausting.
Oh,
Exhausting.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's two things in what you've just mentioned. One is the kind of fear and reluctancy to be, is that a word, reluctancy? I don't know.
It is
being
now.
Reluctant. Yeah, it is now. Okay. So being reluctant to be visible, especially in the beginning. And there's a few reasons behind that. One of, especially if you're in spiritual business, who are the most persecuted niche, of course, they're the spiritual people, so we are naturally, and I say we, even though I am a very left-brained, practical, logical person, but have always been spiritual. I always had that, looking for the guidance from the divine, looking at the planetary alignments. What phase is moon in now right now, or is Mercury in retrograde? Should I buy the new coffee machine or not? Like all these things will always determine this. So I have that spiritual side in me, and even though I grew up, I'll be very transparent, I grew up on stage. Visibility was actually the word in my life from the moment I was born, because I was born in front of 20 medical students. And so
oh my gosh,
it's a funny thing, but that's the truth, so I grew up always performing and being on stage. But at the same time, I'm an introvert. I was not a good looking kid. So especially in school, that did not go down well. And I would take bold moves that other people didn't do. And I would, do things that are a bit different. And I really had to grow up with living in a big bubble and trying not to really think how much resistance my energy and me being a little bit different, or doing things just outside the box, how this affects people, so I kind of carried through, in my life. So I had this whole thing about being visible as a child. But I think also, when I grew up, and when we grow up, especially in our 30s, I think that's where life starts like challenging us, really challenging everything that we believe in, everything that's, that confidence we had before. And maybe it's because we change. Sometimes our bodies change, our lifestyle change, families, whatever happens, and we sometimes lose or disconnect with that enthusiasm we had when we were younger. That was my story, so even though I always kept a passion for, say, I was always into the internet and building online presences, and I've done this for 22 years before I even started my own business in 2012. But then by the time I started my business, I felt very disempowered, because I felt like I was an adult already. I was kind of bitten by working for other people in, other businesses where you're not really seen for your brilliance. So you're just seen as, I remember I worked in hospitality for a long time. And I remember once our general manager said, every time this person walks, that's 10 euros is walking up and down the hall. And I thought it was horrendous way to see people that you're working with, so you're never even appreciating what they're bringing to the table, and the funny observation, I was always seen for who I was by the owners of the company. They'd get out of their way to come to me. If I was managing, say, a restaurant in the hotel, the owner of the hotel would come in and thank me for being so, welcoming to the guests and just being that face of hospitality for them. But the management never did. People you're constantly working with and the people who are in charge of your hours, your salary, all these things, they just don't see you for who you are. And I really felt that it was the most debilitating, horrible, disempowering thing that has ever happened to me. So when I started my business, I came from that place, and I didn't know that there's a different place where you can call the shots, when you can demand the respect from a people that you're providing a service as another business owner, as opposed to just anyone who can do this, and that's the big difference between when you're running your own business. You want to be in that control and power. And not every one of us, when we start our businesses, especially when we come from the background of working for others or working within a big system like corporate world, how we can actually be empowered, and we can actually be calling our shots, and we can actually take full control, even if it feels scary, even when you know that if you're getting away with not doing something today, yes, it's going to affect your income, down the line, maybe in 3 months. So you really need to push sometimes. How do you push to get through it with least damage to your self-esteem, to your, self-empowerment? And that's where human design, for me, with a huge discovery, because as you mentioned, there's so much advice, and everybody's saying to you, this is how you need to do things, because it worked for them. There's no denial that it worked for them, and it worked perfectly. And they say, this is how I achieved this. This is definitely a proven method, because it worked for me, worked for this client I had, worked for that client. They don't tell you that there was also another 100 clients that it didn't work for. Like this, we don't talk about the poor stories of people who didn't get results with our coaching, right? And I'm not criticizing here. I also talk only about the people who get results with my mentoring or coaching. But what I went away from was teaching or telling people to do things in a very rigid way and like a cookie cutter solution, and then applying it to everyone and telling them that if this didn't work for you, then you're either lazy, not in direct words sometimes, but that's what we're told, or you don't have enough discipline, or you don't have you don't appreciate this business and the dream that you have enough, so your why is damaged, or whatever way they frame it in a softer way, but that's exactly what they're saying, so you're not good enough. And a lot of people feel like this all the time, and that's why a lot of businesses and coaching businesses, they're sort of close down, and people give up in the first couple of years, because first of all, it takes years to figure out your way, but also constantly trying to have hope and joining coaching programs, especially when they're really rigid and not getting results, that can not just make you feel like, oh, well, it didn't work again, but that can disconnect you with what you're doing. And that's my story. And that's what happened to me. And it happened to me twice. I followed coaches who I adored, who were doing everything perfectly, which I could see the evidence that what they were doing worked for them amazingly. And I kept saying, if it worked for her, it'll work for me. We're so aligned. We're so similar. It'll work for me. And I never knew that it's only the similarity we had and the connection we had was so skin deep. And really, we were completely different types by human design. Human design said to me, Juliette, I'm a projector. I'm a splenic projector. And the person who I was trying to be was a manifesting generator. And that's like an opposite energy to a projector. In a way, it's not true that it's opposite, but it feels like this, when you're a projector, because you kind of have this idea that if you're a manifesting generator, aren't you?
Yes. Yes,
yeah,
I
so
am.
some things I will say, you might feel like, no, I don't think this is true, because I know it's not true, but that's how it feels. It's like, oh my God, manifesting generators, they're the only ones who can succeed. They're the only ones who can do this outreach. They're so vibrant. They can handle all these things all at the same time. They're the only ones. I have no chance. And so this is what can happen, but it's not true. It's not true. I actually mentor a lot of manifesting generators, and it's not every one of them is like that, so this is a different kind of conversation. But what happened to me is that when I, a projector, tried to be like that vibrant, very aligned with their business manifesting generator who was so, they figured it out for them, and they followed certain steps that 100% worked for them over and over and over again. And when they said to me to go and do it, I disconnected from loving my business. I disconnected from even wanting to do anything. And it paralyzed me. And for 6 months, I did not promote anything. And like my revenue, everything I've built to date, the only thing I could maintain was my visibility online, because it's just something that I do. But it was scary, in the background, what was happening in business side of things. And that was the first time. And it's so funny how, life always brings you the solutions to your problems when you really are suffering. And human design came into my life during one of those periods when I was so derailed, and it allowed me to connect first back to what I actually want to do. What do I love doing? What activities in marketing do I really feel energetically in the right place? For example, being a guest on a podcast is a really energetically correct place for me, or being a host of a podcast, and I have two. So that's another way, because I get to connect to people in a one-on-one environment, which is kind of like a projector big thing, and bring out these very interesting conversations. And so then it helped me to start choosing the correct and aligned activities that I could then release the need of everything that people were telling me you have to have in place in order to succeed. Because I realized that I personally, Juliette Stapleton, don't have to have all those things in place. Things are still working. And when I lean into my strategy, and for a projector, the amount of rest we have to take, it's a bit of a scary thing when you're conditioned to live, that you have to work and do. And they say, no, slow down. And you just need to be. And in order for you to be, you need to rest a lot. And that's mind blowing, at the start. How do you achieve that? And yet the less I do, and the more I am and present and just being there for clients, there in my business, there in my visibility, the more opportunities come in, invitations come in, the doors open for revenue, clients coming out of nowhere, when I focus on things that are energetically aligned, and this realization was so huge for me that I really felt a calling to help. I have, at that stage, I already had 2 decades experience of building online presence for brands and businesses and building the connections with the audiences. And I kind of know really well how to do it. But when you do things that are not aligned with you, then it doesn't work, even when you know that it can work. And I could never have a language or reason to say, why do I think you should be doing outreach? So I'd be talking to someone and I'd be like, you should send everyone a message and not introduce yourself, but say, for example, the people that they knew, and maybe tell them that you have this event. Just send them a message. I have a feeling, intuitively, I know this is something that works for you. I could never tell why am I saying to this person that it works, and it worked for them. And if I tried to do the same thing, absolutely, it would be no results whatsoever. It would be just pushback. And that's because this is not my strategy. This is a strategy for someone who is either manifestor or manifesting generator and has the sparkle, the ignition quality in them. And in certain timing, and when, especially if they say, if you're a manifesting generator and you are actually responding to something that you've seen on the outside, by sending a message, it's not out of the blue, that kind of like cold outreach strategy. It has fantastic energetic backing to your action. So it has really potential to work. And it took me a year to step out of my human design closet and actually announce that I'm going to use it in my business. In fact, I remember I did an intake for my mentorship program in March 2021. And I was saying to each one of them when I was selling the program, some of them renewed from a year before. And I was saying, guys, I'm going to start talking about human design. I'm going to start talking about human design to you. And so, and they were like, yeah, this sounds good, sounds interesting. Come on, Juliette, we don't know anything about it, but tell us more. And I was sitting on my hands, and for the probably 7 months or 9 months, I did not bring human design, because I thought I didn't want to be a human design coach. I didn't want suddenly, it's like jumping on a bandwagon, because human design is very new and everybody is now getting so mind blown by it. And, a lot of people turn into human design coaches and start doing readings and things like that. And I welcome that. But I didn't want to be the woo-woo coach. I still, that was just what wasn't the thing. And it took me so long. And then on the 11th of 11th in 2021, I'll never forget, because my favorite number, I just announced it and stepped out of this closet and said, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to take everything that I've learned, because I don't stop researching, don't stop learning about it. So everything that I know, I'm going to use. And here's the good news. Human design is doesn't have a shallow end, right? It can be very overwhelming. All those numbers, all those gates. And I will tell you, for marketing or business, and even for your life, you really don't need to go much more than, say, your type, master how you follow your strategy, really experiment with that, learn about your authority, respect and honor your authority, your energy levels, know what you need to do not to exhaust yourself energetically, and look at your profile, because the profile is how people see you and how you see yourself. So that's where your content creation, the angles, how you can allow yourself to do what's naturally is natural for you.
Yeah, that's so, what's so powerful about everything that you just shared, Juliette, was the whole energy. Because as you've mentioned, I am a manifesting generator myself, right? But what I have found, and I don't know if it's because of my 4-6, is that, and I'm in this third phase of I have 3 phases in my chart. And this is that third phase of my life, the role model now. And is that I get overwhelmed by having to do everything. Like, say, what human design helped me in my business was that I was growing my coaching business. I was doing my podcast. I was doing energetic healing meditations. And I found that the joy was coming from the podcast. It necessarily, not that I don't like coaching and doing these workshops. I had a small membership. It's not that I didn't enjoy them. It's that the one-on-one with the podcast guests and hearing their stories, and then learning more about, like, what if they're a spiritual modality or some type of specialized life coach, and is that they were able to then how they intertwined it and how they were helping others and their stories. And that brought me the most joy. And it was human design that helped me realize that it's okay if I just want to do the podcast. And so when the coaching was up, the membership was up, I did not continue that at all. In fact, I stepped into a corporate job and I now do the podcast, and it's the podcast that actually brings me the most bliss. But even doing the visibility part of it can be a little bit overwhelming, even for a manifesting generator for 6, in that role model. And so I find that's what I find so interesting about human design. It's like, oh, I think I need to dig a little bit more and figure that part of it out, right? Like, how do you get more visible, even with everything that you do to maintain your energy? I think that's the beauty of the human design.
Absolutely. And in fact, you are a manifesting generator. And this is, I think, and this is what intuitively came to me when you were saying that the podcast gives you most excitement, it's because you're responding. First of all, manifesting generator, you can't be, put in a box. You can't pigeonhole yourself. You need to be open, and you are constantly going to be lit up with so many ideas. And so the podcast is feeding you these ideas. You're meeting these interesting people that you get to select, and then you're responding constantly, like your sacral there is lighting up because they're giving you great stuff. And I can see how this can bring you so much joy, and we still enjoy, working with clients, but sometimes there's also a repetitive moment and things like that, and that it just becomes a little bit less exciting maybe for a manifesting generator. I might be wrong, but it just feels like this could be why. But I also know that it's true that 4/6, it's funny, I'm a 1/3, right? I'm the opposite of 4/6. We are very compatible, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So 4/6, I thought before that, oh my God, they're so, out into people. I am all inside me and sharing my stories. I'm like the most self-absorbed profile, whereas 4/6 is all about the other people. And yet all 4/6 people that I know kind of sometimes want to just get away from people and because that's the line 6
Mm-hmm.
when it gets a little bit overwhelmed, it just wants to be alone, and that's okay, because and there's 3 stages that you have, and there's nothing you can do with it because it's your second line, which is subconscious line, which is the line of your body, and there's nothing you can do about it, but yet it's through people, for opportunities. Everything comes through people and people that so podcast for you, whether it's meeting your guests, giving your audience your presence, you are present in your audience world, no matter the guests are changing, but you are there, the constant, and that's how you can attract clients, you can attract more opportunities, and create more ideas and offers. And so this is very interesting how this whole thing work. But I also have to say that we can't handle everything in our business. I am a minimalist in a way that I use a lot of automation. Whatever I can automate, I automate, but what is being automated has to be created in the energetic alignment. So I don't do any content, I don't write any content if I am not in the zone for it. But when I have written it, I'm very selfish about the time I've spent on it and the energy I've spent, because projectors work in big leaps of energy, short term, and then nothing. And the nothing can last for weeks. And it's a really scary thing in the beginning to accept that pace. It's not every day. And so I'm very selfish when I had this burst and I wrote an article or I did a video or something. How can I reuse it? How can I automate it? So I use some automation tools to be even posting on my personal profile, and I'm extremely consistent, but that's how I can manage that. If I create my podcast, again, I will put it into some sort of constantly promoting every episode that I have done. So those weeks when I have no energy and I'm not really creating anything, there's constantly content is coming out. Somebody wants to binge on what I'm creating, they can, and it's always going to feel fresh because I keep adding and building that library. But I also find that there are some things that we just can't eliminate completely, but we also can't spend time on it. For me, for example, it's accounting. I can't do it. I get really frustrated. It was the only activity that reduced me to tears at one point was my
Oh,
accounting. And for me, it was so scary to hire an accountant because I felt like I have to overcome this fear of numbers, and I need to be in control. And I kept, trying to do it myself and frustrating myself, and even dreading the day when I need to do, my last month's accounts, and prepared everything. It was 1 year progress for me. I hired an accountant, but I would only give her, the minimum of work, maybe just to look over to see that I did everything okay. But I'd be there crying, basically doing this whole thing because it's just feeling so overwhelmed. The problem with this is that it's not just that moment when you're doing it. It's the days before, it's the days after. They just deplete you. They rob you of your creative sparkle and creative juices to create something impactful. And so I've learned, when I completely gave away my accounting, that was a big lesson for me, not to ever, ever hold on to things that are eating me from the inside. So outsourcing, if you're not good at graphics, find a VA, find a designer. And, there are ways to suit any budget. And you can find and try them and test them. And if they work out, great. If not, there's so many people offering services out there. So trying to see what you need to do. How can you minimize what you're doing to just serve you, to light you up if you're a generator or manifesting generator, to help you take these moments of rest. And then when you're in the zone, create if you're a projector. If you're a manifester, just when you have the creative sparkle, don't be asking for permission or thinking, will I follow through with this project? I don't know. Just share. You're here to ignite us all into action. When I am in my rest periods, when I don't have any inspiration, I'll go and I'll Google one of the manifestors that I am connected to, go to their YouTube channel, just listen to a video that is irrelevant to me and my marketing. But just because I'm listening to them speak, I am actually igniting myself into action. And I can then go and do whatever I need to do. So if you're a manifestor, do that. That's your service to the world, right? And it's going to help you. But what are the things that you don't need to do? For example, for me as a projector, my strategy is to wait for invitations. So no form of outreach works for me. The only time when the outreach works is, for example, when I work with somebody, I know they love me, they love working with me, and I'm kind of half sure that if I ask them to renew, maybe they're in the membership group or whichever way we're working together, that they will actually go for it. And then I'll reach out and I kind of have detachment from, even if they say no, it's fine, but I know that I'm reaching out to someone who already sees me for who I am. That's very important for a projector. But and I stopped doing that a long time ago, sending messages, 100 ideal client, or how they call dream client list. That's something that can kill me. So I don't do that, because you can get where you want to get in your own way. And the fact that I don't do outreach doesn't mean that I don't get clients in my business, because that saves me space, and especially just gives me this peace in my mind, in my heart, and allows me then to do what I love, which is speak and write. So I write, and I write for publications, and I attract a lot of clients who come in and they're ready. And that's really priceless.
oh, that is. And you get to maintain your energy and understanding. Yeah, I love that. Minimizing what you are doing, whether it's automation or outsourcing, and staying in your brilliance. Like, what naturally fills you up, and understanding that the rest period. I have a good friend who's a projector, and she's been on, the podcast, and she's beautiful, and she's doing sound codes. And she's actually who had me, just in talking with her, understand that I really needed to understand my own human design, and really stepping into, I'm a connector. I love the one-on-ones, but as I've gotten older, a whole crowd full of people, that's a bit overwhelming, right? And so I've been actually looking at that too, the whole, what can you outsource? How can I use more of my systems to be able to help it? And I had to stop, even with the podcast, on how I schedule the guests, right? I used to be open like 6 days a week to be able to try to accommodate every single person. And I thought to myself, I'm exhausted. Like this is not working. So I made it smaller. And then now it's even smaller. Like it, because I I think the strength, and at least in the manifesting generator for myself that I can speak to, is that when I'm there and I'm giving you my all, like you are my attention. You're who I love this moment. That doesn't mean I don't love you in a month. It's just that I love you. And so you're going to get all my, you're going to get that energy and that connection. And I think it's part of why every guest that I feel so connected with. But I can't
It's so
do
true.
that every single day. Like if I have these big spurts, and then I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm exhausted for like 3 or 4 days. But if I stay in that, all that creativity comes through, the energy, the connection. And so I'm learning now is how to manage that as well, with starting to understand more about my human design.
Actually, what I was just about to say is that there is one thing that I want to warn you or everybody else, is that especially with human design, there's a tendency in us to then look for all the answers in human design. But
Mhm.
even as Ra said, it's just an experiment, and we have all the design anyway. And there's a lot of people who teaching that say, for example, manifesting generator can go to bed, wake up, and have another day full of energy, or there's all these kind of advices. But I know also that there's other things that come in. For example, bending backwards to accommodate, say, yes, I know that I've been there myself. So I'm not talking about you. I'm actually literally even talking about me in this moment. So doing podcasts in the times when it's just completely not suited for my body, this is something that I think that we have to, it's people pleasing part in us. Maybe, if I don't know, in your design, do you have a defined will center, undefined will center? But it could be, even if it's defined, it could be conditioned. So, it could come from that, or maybe the identity center. So there could be answers in the human design. But I think it's also very important to just put yourself first, no matter what, because it's like, if you have the oxygen mask on, then you can help everybody else. If you are suffocating, then you are useless to help anybody, And with this whole thing, put yourself first, put your passions first, put what interests you first. And that determines what to do and what not to do. That determines whether you need to outsource something or just completely just let it go. And it doesn't have to happen at all. And it's not going to completely stop everything. The discipline part is still important. So there is a danger with sometimes leaning too deeply into your human design. Like for me, I'm a projector, and they're like, oh yeah, you have to rest and wait for the invitation. The danger zone is that you kind of think that you don't do anything, that you literally need to just, lie down and just stay like this, and then the phone rings and somebody invites you. That doesn't work the same way. So there is this element of you have to be visible so people can see you. So how can you be visible with the way that doesn't exhaust you? Only focus on things that really light you up, like interviews. They light you up, and then you put it into some sort of scheduling software. I use Social Bee. I have a really good article that I wrote about this tool, that my favorite tool, and I even have a walkthrough how to use it, so I can definitely give you a link to put for our listeners if somebody's interested. This is exactly what I'm using to stay visible. And I just add there's this category buckets. So if I do a nice podcast, and like as a guest, for example, and I really love the energy, when it's out, I'm adding it immediately to that category. And maybe every Tuesday, this software feeds one of the podcasts that I've done. So if I did 10 podcasts, that's 10 weeks of content on every Tuesday coming out that is, passionate and allows me to rest. And yet, I am there actually offering, especially for the new people in my audience who hasn't heard, podcasts and things like that, articles. If you write it, if you only talk about it once, then after a few months, nobody will even bother going and digging into it. So it's good to remind.
Yeah. I can tell that with my own guests that I've had. I share it And then I was going back through and resharing it, right? Like, oh, like what was it? Flashback Friday, I think I was calling it in my emails. And I would refresh. Oh, did you catch this one? And highlight what we were talking about. And I found that those episodes, yeah, the numbers showed that more people were listening to it. Like they must have missed it. And then I think sometimes we put so much energy. Well, I sent an email.
Yeah,
And then
it's
and
not
then you think
enough.
of yourself, well, how many emails do you get a day? Right. And then sometimes you don't see it the first time or even the second
I have
time.
a
Mhm.
an example for you, like an analogy. So imagine if you, let's say you are going somewhere, maybe it's your workplace, and you always go past on the busy street past this musician who's playing there. And sometimes you're busy and sometimes you're just there, maybe it's a shopping street, you're just shopping, they're just a street musician. You're not going to notice them necessarily unless they're playing your favorite song. Then you're going to notice them straight away, right? But maybe you won't notice them every day or straight away. But if you see them every day, after a few days, your mind will say, oh yeah, there's him again, or and then after a week it'd be like, yeah, I love that song that he plays, so I must ask what that song is, or and then maybe in 2 weeks you're actually standing to listen to him. It's the same with our online visibility. So if you're saying something once, there will be people who it will speak. If your audience is targeted, there will be people who will get the message straight away. They stop and listen. But there'd be people who are busy, just at that moment in their lives, something else interrupted, or they just couldn't be there. They didn't have time to listen to the podcast. So, in order for us to get more people paying attention to us, we have to be frequent in what we're saying, and we have to repeat things. And that's a concept that a lot of coaches and anyone who is marketing online sometimes missing. They think that you have to create unique content all the time, but no, because if you actually reshare what you have created before, this is all your power. This is your creative juice. I'm using the word creative a lot, but you know what? That's the key word here, right?
Yes.
You create, make sure that you honor this. This is the time. This is literally your inner, your soul, the mind, and not the mind that's noisy and tries to, interfere, but it's like your true mind is you sharing it in that moment. So you have to be selfish about it. Say, okay, well, you know what, if I send it once, it's like I'm not giving it enough credit. I want to make sure that these people who maybe didn't have time to listen, they have another chance. I also want new people who will come through my podcast, through my sending friend requests, whichever way you're growing your audience, that these people also get that goodness that I've created before. So you're freeing yourself time, and you only, in that situation, you can only focus on when you feel it. When you feel it, you create. When you don't feel it, that's the time for you to recharge, to rest. And that's where the automation really, really helps. You cannot automate building connections. You cannot automate that. I also believe that you cannot outsource creating content to someone else, because you speak through your, whether it's defined or undefined, but through your throat, right? Through your voice. And it's about you discovering your voice. And actually, it's very empowering. I find it's very empowering. I never thought I was a writer, and now I'm writing for Entrepreneur Magazine. I mean, this is something that would blow my mind like completely in 2017. I would not believe it. And now it's not a big deal. Now I'm getting annoyed that they didn't publish me soon enough. I'm like, where's my article? What's going on? And it's a casual thing. But it's about belief, So I had to experience this, and I had to express my voice, and I had to, really just try, knocking in some doors and, offering this to them, and continuing doing and mastering my process. That's how you get there. It's not an accident. It's really a result of determination. And even if you don't have to straight away aim too high, because that could be very scary. But if you even improve a little bit over time, you know, we are all really, we suck in the beginning. I don't remember, there was a comedian who said we always suck in the beginning, and as we practice we suck less and less and less until we suck so little that we're almost perfect. That's my motto in life. That's how I do it. In the beginning it's really bad. Repeat, you know, that you can't fail. There is no failure. It doesn't exist. It's only showing you what direction to take, what to tweak, you know. And just sometimes it's just so bad you're like, okay, this is not my direction, incorrect, and you change the course. And so you find that voice, and you find, you know, you find yourself, and you will be able to express yourself so powerfully. It will be extremely impactful. You will feel, you will see how you actually attract people when you speak, when you write, when you master this, you know. And it's magical. That's client attraction in a nutshell. One of the biggest advices today is master your voice.
Yes, that's so powerful. You know, I was
Don't make it
working.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my guests is it was called Words Have Power, and it was in my first season. And Chantelli, when I was working with her, because um, you know, the words, right? The words of how you're presenting yourself, how to decide who's your niche, the how do you express what you have to offer, you know, those powerful words that sometimes we all get stuck in. And so she was helping me. And what she told me too is that when I'm connected, I'm really connected and people can feel it. Very, very passionate, but that wasn't coming through in my words. And so one of the advices that she gave me was to actually just record myself when I get the ideas. Don't try to write it down and correct yourself. Share what it is and then share that. And I thought it was super, super powerful to be able to do that. And when I thought about that, when I first had the podcast out, even though I was recording on Zoom and had the audio or the video, I wasn't sharing that. And I thought, oh, that's crazy because it might even help people understand like how connected I am with whoever I'm talking about. And that you, in trying to highlight your energy so that, you know, that person who is looking for somebody who's in the spiritual world, they don't even quite know what they're looking for. And maybe they're like, well, what in the world is even human design, right? What do you mean everybody else has heard about it? Well, my podcast is really about helping people understand, you know, different spiritual modalities or how we use it in business, helping us really step into our own light, you know, shining our own worth. And how do we get that, you know? And so what's so powerful was that being able to really understand how you do that. And so those moments of the power of our words is so powerful. You don't have to keep recreating content. And so I love what you're sharing because it's so true. And when we pause and do this and step into who we really are, we get more energy, more worth comes to us, you know. We feel our own worth. When you feel your own worth, you have your more confidence. Isn't that what shows with others? And it's not fake it till you make it. It's actually you're
Oh
being
yes.
authentically you.
Oh, I love what you just said, it fake it till you make it, because that's exactly what I did when I started my online visibility as a coach, as a personal brand. I was really faking it till you make it because, you know, I didn't have a program. I didn't have experience doing this. I knew a lot about Facebook because I did a lot for other businesses. I never did it for myself. And in a way, I had to, you know, put this front and fake it till I made it a little bit. But it always, you know, the business part side of this whole thing didn't work because people work with people and they feel your authenticity is palpable to people. Yes, there are some people who are confused, and unfortunately a lot of fake gurus take advantage of that when you're really
Mhm.
confused, you know, or naive. But it's everybody's own responsibility for how gullible they are. I really believe that, you know, and maybe it's a journey of learning about yourself, you know. So I've been gullible in my life so much, you know, and I've been naive so much, and I've burnt and, you know, on these things, and I've learned that these are not the ways to be, and I think fake it till you make it was one of those lessons for me. Like, can I do it? Can I just wing it? And my big lesson was like, you can't wing it. You really need to find that power, because when you speak from the place of you really solid in this, and maybe it's my 1-3 profile, of course, I'm all about foundations and, real, you have to know what you're talking about, but that really gives that magnetism to the content that I can share. So it's finding that place. So when you're saying, about it's not even sometimes about specific words that you use, but it's the words that are aligned with you. That's where you can take the strategies. For example, if you want to go and revisit that episode about the power of words, you said it was in your first season. So, if you want to revisit that and then look into your human design and see how can you apply that with understanding your energetics from the human design perspective, for example. So if you're a manifesting generator, you would have a tendency to have a lot of great ideas, especially on the go. And then when you come to write it down, sometimes the condition of what you should be writing, and as you mentioned, correcting yourself, trying to be like more what it should be, more proper, that will interfere, that will kill your creative spark. So something like recording things on the go. And do you use Anchor FM for your
Yes.
podcast?
Yep.
Yeah, so do I, because it has an amazing app on the phone that you can just go and record an episode while you're there. So manifesting generators, if you have great ideas, grab yourself, and you don't have to publish it, or you can have any voice recording app. But I find that the podcast is great because you can just go and do, even if it's a 10 minutes episode, micro podcasting is a thing, you can have a small episode, but you've expressed yourself. And through that, no matter how imperfect it is, remember, when we're listening or watching, it's about other things. It's not about how articulate we are. It's about the energy. It's about sometimes just the vibe. And even if we feel like we are very inarticulate the way we wanted, to say, the person on the other side, the right one, they get it. They get it, like they read between the words. And so when you have that piece of content recorded, bam, you have a piece of content, right? And you've expressed yourself while you were in that light that is so important for you energetically to be in. And it doesn't matter even if it's about your business or not. Any idea came to your mind, you're a manifesting generator, do it. Just talk into your phone, because it's gonna give you the outlet creatively. You're gonna feel good that you did it. You're not giving yourself a chance to overthink, which is a big issue with a lot of manifesting generators. You won't give yourself a chance to hide, which is if you're 4-6, the line 6 there with don't do it. It's safer when you don't do it. And so there's so many advantages. And I think that it's just, so you take something that an idea, but you also think about your own energetics and how can you marry that? How can you do that feels so attractive? But how can you make the most of it? And so that's what I basically do with the clients, is where I, somebody comes to me and then we find out they're manifesting generator. Maybe they have like a 5-1 profile, very kind of living in projections of others. And how do you become visible? And how do you express yourself? And how can you be clear? Because messaging in marketing requires clarity, but sometimes it's very difficult to express yourself clearly, especially if you have, for example, a profile where other people will still hear only what they want to hear or see what they want to see in you. That's the way it is, or they will think that you're a savior when you actually not. So how do you create this? And so that's literally where I help dial these things, because I think that it's so amazing. We have all these strategies. I'm not saying that they don't work. I'm just saying they don't work for everyone. But how can we take that and then take your energetics and just test it and see, is it going to have a sparkle? Is it going to work for you and your type and your energy levels and your lifestyle in a way? And that's where human design became so huge for me, and where I found myself empowered, saying that, oh, I don't have to be a human design coach. I am a marketer, but this is my compass. This is when you come to me. Now I know how to actually explain to you why I think or intuitively feel, because I'm a splenic projector, so it's just my body just knows why we need to do it. And that's my third eye. I don't know, did I mention this podcast? No, but that's my third eye.
No, that's beautiful. I've been looking at it. Yeah.
This is why I bought this. When I saw this, I said, oh my God, this is my third eye. I always say that somehow I know, but now I know why I know, because of The human design gives me this, it puts me in a box for a little while until I understand the energetics. Then I don't need the box anymore. And I love that.
Yeah, I love that too, and I love how you can intermingle other things that you already intuitively know, right? Like if my energy, I think, okay, how have I taken care of myself? Just like the oxygen, like how important that is to be able to, use the stuff that you used if you've had boundary issues, if you have been people pleasing, or if I'm getting overwhelmed I made a post like on my birthday recently. I had, 100 and I don't know, 25 people respond. And now I can't get myself to go back in because it's so overwhelming that. And then I thought to myself, okay, what have I learned about myself? Have I taken care of myself? How's my sleep? How is my, my food intake? Have I gotten some type of movement in? Have I laughed today or connected with my own joy? And I have found that using that with the human design has just been super powerful with everything that you're saying too, and then feeding it when you say, when you feel it, create, and really trying to stay in that zone. So powerful. But it really was human design that kind of did, like what you're saying, gave me the compass to be able to know when. And so grateful that you're able to really help people understand this, first just getting your own profile and understanding.
Oh, the profile. And you know what? People just dismiss it and they go into all the gates and channels and, all these other gene keys. Gene keys, I'm not even getting so deep into that. Maybe it's going to come in the next 10 years. I'm allowing it, every little thing, because I found it so overwhelming. But I also discovered that you don't have to. You do not have to go into the deep end. You can actually, even the profile itself, it'll take you, it's an experiment, remember. So it's not a dogma. A lot of people approach human design as some sort of dogma and the rules. No, it's a game, it's an experiment. And so your profile is actually such a deep topic. And there's so much you will, if you start learning about profiles, about your lines, other people, especially other people with the same profiles, other people with the same profiles as you, and you really start digging deeper into that. That's a science in itself. And it's so fascinating. This is what I'm obsessed with, profiles. I love this because it just explains everything. It explains why a certain person a certain way. It explains why you are a certain way. That gives you all the clues what to talk about in your content, in business, for example. But also it helps you work with people as well. It helps you understand your value. And it it just unlocks so much. I was just going to say about, when you were saying, the line 6, and you talk about line 6, but the line 6 is something that is your design line, right? And it's kind of can be taking over. But line 4 is an opportunist. So when line 6 is trying to take over and maybe, oh, I don't want to go back, you have to like flip the script and say, okay, what's my personality line here gets out of this birthday? Engagement. So that means if I give a very good post to maybe post an offer, how many more people are going to see my post now, maybe for next couple of weeks, because there was so much engagement on my profile? So it's kind of like, what is in it for you? And what's the opportunity for you, and focus on that more than actually like this, the line 6 is there, just doesn't want you to go. And I find that when you start like lean into, especially your first line, because it's a conscious line, that's where the conditioning can be. That's where the little, things can, I call them cockroaches in your head. That's where they really show up. And when you, for example, are not thinking about the gain you're getting as a line 4 from your connections, when you don't see the gain, you maybe don't want to be there either. There has to be something in connection to a person, either lighting you up or I do something for you, because if there is none of that, then you will feel like you don't want to be there. And so with Facebook and this whole thing, it can be just like, oh, I don't want to be there. So let's flip the script and say, okay, what's in it for me? Engagement. This is great. I put pictures of my dog just for engagement because I know people will engage with the dog or something like non-business related. And the next day there'll be an offer or a testimonial or something else that will build my authority, because I know the more people engage with this post, then for the next few days, there will be more people seeing my posts, even if they don't engage, because that's how Facebook works. So what's in it for you is a good question to ask.
Oh, that's a great question for me to go back and ask. It's yeah, very, very yeah. I didn't even think about that, because in these recent posts, like I cut off my hair. I cut 16 inches off my hair because of my sister's going battling cancer, right? And she's a survivor. And so because I can't do anything directly in way of support, I cut off 16 inches to donate, right? And I've always had super long hair. And so now, and then it blew up, right? Like I went to a stylist who actually figured out my hair type, my lifestyle. Like I did that investment. I just didn't go cut it off. And it blew up, literally blew up my Facebook. And people are like, or people now are meeting me like, you had long hair? Like, no, yes, I did. I had really long, thick hair.
I
And
saw that post. And
oh,
when I saw you today, I was like, she looks hot.
oh my gosh. And I've absolutely am so surprised of how much I love my haircut. Like
It looks
just,
great.
it feels like a whole new person, right? Like I just feel that, all of this new energy, but being able to then take that post, and I just put it out there because of my I didn't have any intentions, right? I just thought, well, this is a big, huge thing. I keep in contact with a lot of people on my Facebook, besides people who I've connected with and throughout life. But I never thought about it as like, oh, then I could have actually have just shared something small about what I was doing, say with the podcast. I didn't honestly connect with that, even though I've had coaching of like, oh, every seventh post is supposed to be this. That does not feel authentic, right? No.
But it doesn't work because you have to surf the wave. You can't just say, okay, you can't approach it by numbers, because we're dealing with people. Your audience are people.
Yeah.
And we don't never know which post they will actually respond to. There are posts that I post and they have 40, 50 likes and comments, and then I have posts and there's nothing, and these are the good posts. I'm saying, I just poured my heart and all my knowledge about human design in this post, and you did not even like it, because maybe I posted it when none of the people who were interested were online, or maybe it didn't have an attractive enough picture, whatever happened. And maybe I don't even want to know why, because maybe it's just Facebook was releasing a new feature and now our reach is suffering or something. Things like that happen. So instead of getting frustrated about that, it's just to kind of be, this is literally what I teach with and what I mentor, is understanding how to surf the wave of social media algorithm in order for you not to get overwhelmed, not to think about the there's too many comments or not enough comments, and even think about that at all, but just play with this algorithm and always know when to take advantage of it and when just leave it alone and do its thing, especially if you're using, as I mentioned, the automation and some things are just being dripped there, like your testimonials from your clients or podcast episodes, things we forget to post. Those are the great things, the fillers. But then something got attention of your audience, and you can always top it up with something to go. But this is not a common knowledge. This is something that you sort of learn from experiencing, from actually watching what works, what doesn't work. I don't like approaches that are too rigid, especially when it comes to social media, because every one of us has such a unique combination of people that follows us, that we can't make general statements about what audience likes, does, whatever, because every audience can be so different. Like, for example, my audience on Facebook could be so highly targeted that I'm really like researching. Everyone sends me a friend request, I'll go to their profile and make sure that I feel energetically connected, or I just accept anyone just for the numbers, right? So it depends, like whoever is in your world will determine your engagement, how confident you feel. If you have too many people that you know from real life, maybe there's a sense of like fear of judgment is a little stronger than is completely strangers. And so there's all these kind of things, and their inner work, and also understanding the technology that you're dealing with. How can you use it to your advantage? The word technology is a scary word, but trust me, it's small concepts like this you just need to understand, and that's it. And it's like with human design, understand the top level. Everything else will get activated when you're doing that correctly.
Oh, I love it. You've just given us so many nuggets, really how to use not only, well, first, and get your profile, get your human design profile,
Yeah, really get it, really read
Mhm.
about it, and Google it to death.
Yeah.
Find any sources that you can to read about your lines, especially your first line, because that's where the conditioning will sit. That's where the issues will, that's where you're lying to yourself, or you're holding yourself back.
Yeah.
That's the key, I think.
Yeah. What's powerful is that this season I had on Robin Wynn, and she wrote a book about the lines. Really,
I'm
really, really
obsessed.
good book, right? That I'm
Robin, I'm
still, yeah.
obsessed with.
Oh, isn't she amazing? I mean, oh my goodness. And she was on this episode. So people have a
I
reliable
watched it.
reason. Yeah. And it was taped where we were just doing a get to know you. And so on the YouTube, the whole funny thing is I'm in a hoodie, my hair's up in a pony, no makeup. And it was such a powerful, I felt it was a powerful episode, even though she
It
read
was.
my chart, was that she showed right there where I think there was so much knowledge sharing, and she was just so giving of everything. So yeah, so I'm glad that you're connected too and know who Robin is. I think it just adds more
I
credibility
would.
to that book. That it's a
Oh,
really good book.
absolutely. In fact, I have two of her other books here, and the profiles ones are on the Kindle. They're the two ones. I
Yeah,
just
huh?
kind of
Yeah.
taking them out. I definitely recommend reading this one here, which is Understanding Your Clients Through Human Design, even if you don't have any clients, because this covers the types really well. The types, and I think I might be wrong saying that authority as well, but it's the types. Amazing. I love how Robin structures her books, because it's very easy to understand, and she gives you a breakdown of what's about to be broken down even further. So there is real great structure. And then she has another book, which is understanding the centers in human design. That's a little bit more about the gates and the centers. And I would say that go with the profiles first, because you will understand a lot of people. It's actually, your marriages will be saved, and your relationships with your parents will be saved, and your children, you will get even better relationships. So that's very much, I'm like an ambassador for Robin here. I
Yeah,
hope
right. Like, so am
Robin, if
I.
you're
Like, I don't
listening or
have it right
watching, look
here.
at me. I'm so obsessed. And then I have the profile book, but it's on Kindle, so I can't like wave it in the air, but someday I will add it to my collection. And so then you can go into the centers, I think, because it's kind of deeper. I haven't even finished it yet, because it's like takes processing a little bit more. The profiles, I read it in a day. It was amazing. So, but when you understand these things, then a lot of, don't take everything as this is black and white. If you have a defined center, maybe head or an ajna, you will probably want to do it, because we just like operate in this duality. But no, it's not. It's have fun with your design. There's so many other things, when you go deeper into human design for business. There is things like every time you have an offer, an idea for an offer, you can run a design and see, is there a connection between that design and your design, and what is this? Like, my business is a manifesting generator, and how much this actually adds to it. It feels very overwhelming when you're even talking about it, because it's like, oh my God, this is, it's like a black hole. Human design is like black hole. But the truth is that I, for example, feel that sometimes I'm a projector and I don't have energy, but in my business, I respond. I see things in the outside and I respond like a sacral being would. I can't run all the time as a manifesting generator. I have to honor my personal energy over that. But I definitely have seen, and especially with the profiles, with my business, with working, with local clients, being very disempowered. It was a 5-1 profile of the business energy, which is a difficult profile. It's not the worst. Everyone, like every profile is perfect for you, but it's difficult in terms of visibility with the projections. And I experienced this, so I can help people with 5-1 profile
Yeah.
more, because I actually have felt that energy, tapped into it with my business. So yes, it's such an amazing and really multi-layered thing. But for me, when I help my clients, for example, I don't go this deep. I think it's overwhelming. I think it's too much. And I think that it's like anything that you learn first the foundations, the basics. When you're completely fluent and absolutely bored with that because it's a second nature to you, then you can go and have a look at have fun with, your business energy. It just sounds exciting, but you don't need it. So we always look at the type and strategy, and then really into the profile and all the content ideas that you can pull out of that. That's something that's very exciting, because content is king, and content is what attracts clients. And so you don't have to bend backwards and beg for business, where you can just express yourself and they come.
Oh, I absolutely love everything that you're sharing, Juliette. If people are interested in learning more or getting to know you more, how can they reach you? And do you have any like current offers, or how do people work with you?
Awesome. So you can come to julietstapleton.com, and there is a lot of different little free things. If you're completely new to human design, there's a small tiny training explaining how your energetics work with business, how I apply it in business. I do have an offer. I have a marketing report. It's a 25 pages, and promise no pictures except for your chart. So all text, right? And it's all about marketing. It's about your type. It's about your strategy. It's about some of the smaller variables in your chart that affect your maybe work environment, learning style, practical things. I'm a practical girl. And so it's called Marketing Blueprint by Design. And I will give you 20% off the price. You can get one with a session with me, or maybe a pre-recorded video walkthrough. So the link that I'm giving, Debbie, includes that discount already. Just click on it and you'll get into the page. And that's my offer for you to save and discover your marketing by design.
Oh, I love that. That's so generous of you to be able to, pre-make this link so that it's already there. And I also am gonna, I put in the show notes this link to the Forbes article that you were referencing as well, so that if they
Thank you so
want to
much.
go, find you that way. And I know you're all, of course, on, social media and on YouTube and even LinkedIn. And so, a whole
And let's
other,
put the link for the automation tool, because I think
yeah.
that this, even if you take just that away, it would be great. And there's a great video as well. So I'll give you that link too.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you again for joining me, Juliette. It's been such a pleasure.